Good afternoon, my friends. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here once again to assist you and to speak with you and to guide you and to share some thoughts with you. We have been present with this medium as he has begun his journey of redesigning the website and going through the name changes, and we have been inspiring him and guiding him in order to make this happen. For we are much more aware of the benefits of doing this than he himself is. And we are glad that this is proceeding in such a positive way. Know that this is a grand opening, a door opening into the next stage of the process of bringing truth to the physical world. And we are excited in the process and the progress that is being made and the steps that are happening. It is also our intent to make aware, as I am going to steal some of what the medium wanted to tell you, that we are demonstrating what we have taught for so many years, to bring the thoughts and your problems to the world of spirit and solve them. For as this medium was listening to the meditation, the consciousness gathering, we were feeding him the answer to what he had stated while he talked to you about creating a movie explaining the evolution of the process, the evolution of philosophy of this group, from its beginning when it was a church to now that it's a center, and the steps along the way. He was watching visually like you would watch a TV screen of images that he will be able to create, and create a movie to explain this to the viewers on the internet. And therefore, we have taught to bring your problem to spirit and we will help you solve it. And he has witnessed this himself with an unconscious intent, but nevertheless the intent of creating this movie. So we are showing you that this is what you will be able to do in the days to come. To, when situations arise, to bring it to spirit by holding the intent and becoming your divine crystalline energy and sitting back in that silence and allowing us to impress upon your mind, whether it is visually or mentally or however it will work for you, for the answer will be there. For this is your birthright. It is all humans' birthrights to be connected, to be the divine crystalline energy, and to have the access to divine knowledge and divine guidance simply through your senses, your psychic senses, to have this information come to you. This is the teachings that we have been stating for years, and these are the teachings that you are witnessing, manifesting at this time. And we are so happy to be able to be your teachers and your guides to bring you this knowledge and to give you the steps and the tools in order to allow you to do that for yourselves. For as we have been stating for many years now, a time is coming where each of you will be your own medium, where you will be directly connected to the divine guidance of the world of spirit and all the divine knowledge that is contained there. You will have access to and be able to obtain that knowledge by using the right methods and the right tools. So we are happy to be able to be present with you, to share this experience with you, and to have you understand it. Our blessings to you, my friends. We are ready for the first question.
Thank you, Carl and friends, and thank you for being here with us. We really appreciate it. The first question is from Daisy. Was the historical Jesus Andronicus I Komnenos, the emperor of Byzantium, and is this historical Jesus a composite figure? Thank you.
The man that you refer to as Jesus from Nazareth, who you labeled the Christ, was a individual who had reincarnated many times into the earth plane, obtaining knowledge and obtaining wisdom as every human being does. The difference being is that his soul became more spiritualized over time, more quickly than other people. So in other words, it did not take him, let's say, 500 lifetimes in order to become spiritual as it does for some people. It perhaps took him 10 or 15. And again, these are not exact numbers. I'm giving you an analogy. So he became interested in being spiritual, and because of his intent, as he came back to in each life, and he kept focusing on that intent, he was able to grow his spiritual knowledge and therefore evolve quicker than most. Therefore, in the lifetime that you have his recorded as his life as Jesus, he lived his life to teach spiritual truths. He did not come to the earth plane to establish religion. He did not come to the earth plane to be worshipped or to become a god. He became as a way shower and a teacher. And it was his followers who were not as spiritual as him and who had some problems understanding the teachings. Think about this, my friends. You have witnessed yourselves how this particular medium has been learning the new ideas, the understanding of divine crystalline energy, and that even though he has some knowledge of it, he cannot always state it totally correctly. The same thing happened to the disciples listening to Jesus. They were getting it to some extent, but not exactly. And therefore, when Jesus was made his transition into the world of spirit, they were left in some of their inaccuracies of the teachings, and therefore things got a little muddled up. Then, beyond that, there were certain people who deliberately made changes in the teachings in order for them to gain power and to keep people from understanding these truths that Jesus taught, because if they followed his teachings, they would no longer need them. Therefore, to keep their power, they made certain changes as well. So his teachings got corrupted over time. The entity that you are speaking of did not come into play with the man of Jesus. And so we think that this is a sufficient answer. Do you understand?
Thank you. The next question is from Rhonda. The launch of our book, Our World and Beyond Conversations with Spirit, was sabotaged by unknown forces. Can you shed any light on this and what should have been done to prevent this? Thank you.
You are living in a time of a tug of war between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. So when things and the light happens and the darkness becomes aware of it, they sometimes go and try to sabotage. It goes back to exactly what we were talking about in the last answer, where Jesus' teachings were manipulated to keep the truths from the people. That concept has not changed, and that is what happened in your case. Certain people did not want this book to come into for people to understand, because they feared that this would take away from their power base, and so they did what happened. There is not much that can be done to prevent it per se. The only thing you can do is to counteract it the best way that you can. Project your light. Don't deviate from that. Project it and keep projecting it and keep projecting it again. Stronger and stronger. For as you should understand at this point, the light will prevail, but the struggles are not always easy to totally eliminate. You must also realize that even though it's a struggle between light and dark, they are both parts of the polarity, both parts of the spectrum are in divine energy. Initially, humankind was given the charge to make known the unknown. And that is what's being done. Some people are making known the light, and some people are making known the dark. But what you need to remember is that that is a duality, and there is no duality. And therefore, you need not to look at it as good and bad, but as a different aspect of divine energy, and come to the realization that in time, that would balance out in a sense. Not that the good will become bad, but that the bad will become good in a sense, and everything will return into one state of divine energy. So it is important for you to realize although emotionally it is difficult to come to that realization that the bad is and the darkness is not necessarily bad, it's just different. And it needs to be honored as divine energy, even though that's not where you want to be. For everyone has free will to be where they wish to be. And you can only magnify your own good light, your own light, and know that eventually the darkness will absorb that light too into until the duality resolves itself into oneness. Do you understand?
Thank you. Next question is from Susan S. From your current vantage point of humanity's evolution, do you have any up-to-date perspectives and or suggestions regarding the renaming of the church, Gifts of the Spirit, that would align us in serving the highest good for humanity's evolution of consciousness? Thank you.
As we talked about today, the renaming is part of the grand plan that we had to bring things more into the light. Think about it. Think about what we just spoke about in the last answer. The word church has been rooted, unfortunately, into what you term the darkness. Think about the Catholic Church and all the persecution that they did, the millions upon millions of people they killed because they did not believe the way they wanted them to believe. That certainly is not filled with divine light. So by abandoning the word church, you are disassociating yourself from that vibration and allowing yourselves to be in a vibration that's not anchored in down by those associations. It is another way to bring light into the equation. As we said, we want you to magnify your light as much as you can, and it will attract the darkness to come to you. And the renaming of the church is that part of that process because it dissociates from any connotation of those negative actions taken by churches, from the oppressive dogmas that were established by churches. It will allow you to emphasize the truths and the philosophies that are coming directly from the spirit world that are untainted by mankind's motivation for power and greed. And therefore, it is all. Think about it as your organization being on a rheostat, and by changing the name, you are making the light of your church brighter and brighter as you turn that rheostat up, because you're dissociating yourselves from the histories of the word church and things associated with it. And therefore, that the brightness that is coming from that we place in the name center will attract people naturally. They'll be vibrating towards the organization because it'll be emanating stronger light. And by light, we're not exactly talking about light itself, but the vibration that is being created. So the people will notice that vibration. Think about the fact that of sometimes you hear a person walking into a room of strangers, and yet they're attracted to a certain person that they have never met. And sometimes they discover that they knew that person in another life. Well, what's that all about? That is about a person recognizing a vibration that they're not focused on the vibration, but yet there's a certain subconscious, their soul energy recognizes it and causes that recognition to go and affect the physical nature of that individual, and they suddenly are attracted to that person. So this is what we're talking about. You will be raising the frequency of this organization, and people will naturally be vibrating, be attracted to that vibration, and therefore know that they should start to investigate what is being taught here. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. The next question is from Susan Yu. Michelle Obama was missing from the Trump inauguration. Firstly, is Michelle Obama a real female or a male? Is she or he still alive? Thank you.
Yes, she is very much still alive. She is a person who has a certain mindset, and in her mindset, she felt um, the word is kind of not so much defeated, but angry, though, the fact that the philosophy that she stands for was defeated in the election, and she was having what you would call a temper tantrum, and therefore did not want to be in the presence of the current president because of the fact that she was angry that her side lost, and therefore she just decided to avoid going into these public situations that she should have been there according to the tradition of your country, but she decided not to because she wanted to show that she was having her own hissy fit, if you want to use that term, and therefore that is why she did not attend. Do you understand?
Thank you. And is she a natural female or a male?
At this point in time, and in this point of your of evolution in thought, it should not really matter what she is or how she identifies herself. She is a human being, and every person is divine crystalline energy, which is both male and female. So it really doesn't matter, or shouldn't matter to anyone too much, whether or not where on the scale she identifies herself, because she is a divine human consciousness, and therefore she just is. We are coming into times where these concepts of gender should not matter as much. However, that being said, it should not be forced down anyone's throat. And what the grand reaction in your particular country and around the world is the fact that certain philosophies were being demanded, certain things were being asked for people, and that should not happen. People should just learn to ignore gender, because it doesn't matter what a person's gender is or what their identification is. Each and every human being is divine crystalline energy, and they're all one and the same, and therefore they're both male and female, because God is both male and female. If you read your Bible carefully, it says when God created humankind, he created the male and female. Therefore, the first person was androgynous, and eventually the genders were separated. But we're coming to a point where if we're going to become divine crystalline energy and going back to a point of merging with the one I am. The one I am is androgynous, both male and female. So the idea of gender, it should start to become irrelevant. We are just energy. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. The next question is from Ria. Is it possible to know what kind of year 2033 will be? How the situation will be in the world? It is then 100 years after Hitler took power in Germany, with all the consequences that this had. I understand, of course, that the situation for the US is different from Europe. Thank you.
The answer to that question is rather difficult to put into words. Partially because the answer has not materialized yet. You are in a process of going through what is known as the end times. It is a process of much turmoil, of much ups and downs, of very high positives and very low negatives. It is a time of change, a change of energy, a change of philosophy, a change in the earth itself. So it is a process that is going through, that humankind will be going through, and the earth is going through. What we wish to emphasize to you is something that is very difficult for you to understand and to keep into your memory and your consciousness. You tend to think that you are walking on the earth, and you call the earth terra firma, and you think that it is hard, and you think it is solid, but it is not. It is energy. Everything is energy. The earth is energy. The people are energy. The plants, the rocks, the water, everything is energy, and energy is constantly in motion. But it is also a consciousness, and it's also it is also a consciousness, and therefore it is imperative for you to understand that because everything is energy, energy can be influenced by so many things and so many thoughts. There was a scientist in Japan who took water, and he took a glass of water and he held it in his hand, and he scented good positive thoughts, and he put the water in an ice tray, and he put the ice tray in the freezer and froze it and looked at the crystals. And he took another glass of water, and he did the same thing, but he scented negative, horrible thoughts. And he froze the water and looked at the crystals, and they looked totally different than the good ones. And he realized that his thought energy affected the water, affected how it happened. Because everything is vibration, everything is energy, even though you see it as physical stuff. It isn't. So therefore, think about this. Think about all the changes that are about to happen. Think about how your thoughts will affect those changes. And you're one individual. There are billions of people on the earth that are going to be affected by this. Can you start to understand how we cannot predict things with total accuracy because there's too much variation to come to a realization? We can tell you at the end that that goal will you will be living in a society and a world that is completely different from what you are living in now. Both the earth plane itself will be different. The land structures will be different. People's minds will be different. The energy that you feel around the planet will be different. And it will all be so very different and so very positive. But giving us a specific date and asking us how it's going to be in that date, we can't not tell you. I cannot tell you if you will be finished going through the change into the age of knowledge by that date. You will be much closer to it than you are now. But will you be totally there? We cannot tell you that at this time. So I hope you understand how we cannot be very precise in what to answer that particular question, but we can tell you that many changes will happen by that point in time, and the earth will be so much closer to the age of knowledge at that time, and it'll be almost unrecognizable to what you are living now. That we can tell you. But will you be totally there yet? That we cannot. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. The next question is from Rhonda. If a spirit comes in of a menacing / low vibration, is it possible to move them on or even to raise their vibration? Thank you.
What we say to you is, as we just explained, everything is energy. So if a spirit comes in of a low frequency, as you described, you can address it and talk to it and explain to it a more enlightened approach. You cannot force that entity to accept it, but you can present the information in the hopes that they will absorb it. If that negative entity or that lower frequency entity, which is a better way of saying it, uh, takes in the information and ponders it and thinks about it, and then sends out a thought into the ethers that it would want to make some changes. At that point, another spirit from a higher dimension will come down to assist that person to help them change and help teach them. But they are doing that because of free will. That's lower entity is seeking help and guidance and asking for teachings on how to evolve. Therefore, the teacher will appear. So often you have heard when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. This is the case. So what we ask you to do is to act as the way shower, not to teach in order to convert, but to teach in order to present, to give them the knowledge, to give them an understanding for them to contemplate. Because you do not have the right or the power to change them, but you have the right and the power to present them information for them to make the free will decision or choice to change. That you can do. Do you understand?
Thank you. The next question is from Susan Yu. Was the recent crash between an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk helicopter really just a natural accident, or was it created for another reason? Thank you.
The crash itself was an accident. It was the result of human error The question is, why was the error made? And that is what will be investigated. It was not a deliberate attempt to do anything. It was human error. There are many errors on many different aspects of that situation, from the people in the air control, from the people flying the helicopter, and the people flying the airplane. Errors were made in all areas, and unfortunately, people lost their lives. Do you understand?
Thank you. The next question is from Ria. Today and in the last couple of years, hundreds of thousands of men who have to fight each other are being killed here in Europe. I know that their passing to the spirit world has a meaning, especially as they are so many. Can you help us to understand what their task is now or in the future as they are in the spiritual realms? Thank you.
The easiest answer to this question has to do with where you are in time. As we talked about, you are going into an age of knowledge. And that time frame, there will be no more wars. People will learn to live in peace. People will be able to recognize the divine crystalline energy, the one I am in every person, and understand that every person is equal. And that the ideologies that were created on the earth plane, whether they're political or religious or any other way, were all man-made and ways to separate people into groups that would fight each other. And they will realize the error of those ways. So if you think and know and understand that, think about the fact of the people who are coming back into the earth plane now. They are coming back to have certain experiences. And some of these people need the experience of going to war and losing their life in order to progress their soul and their knowledge. That opportunity will not exist in the future. So therefore, more people are coming back and this particular time in order to gain that knowledge that they need in order to spiritually evolve themselves, because in the future it will not exist. So that is part of the reason why so many wars are happening right now, and people are dying. It was predicted 2,000 years ago that the end times which you are living would be full of war and conflict. And part of these wars and conflict, part of the motivation of it, or I should say, it isn't a motivation because nobody really set out to do this, but it is providing final opportunities for people to come back and have that experience. That being said, we have expressed that answer in the easiest way for humankind to understand. But if we take one step further back, you understand that there is no time and that everything is happening in the now. And therefore, if a person really needed to come back and do that, they could reincarnate into the 1600s and experience the same thing. Maybe not with the same technology, but the same thing. But that is another aspect of understanding, which gets to be very confusing for some human beings because of their limitation of their capabilities of understanding. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. The next question is from Rhonda. If objects can hold residual energy, is there a way to clear this energy? Thank you.
What one would need to do is to bring the frequency of that object up into a much higher frequency. Um, in order to answer that question the best way that we can, we need for you to understand that in everything is based on frequency. And therefore, if you take an object and let's say hold it in your hands and you're able to modulate the frequency of that object into a higher, much higher frequency, you could bring it into a frequency that has healing light and so forth. And therefore, when the vibrational rate, when you stop that process and the vibrational rate begins to come back down again, it will come back being on a different come back changed on a different frequency, and that should erase the history of what was there. In other words, it's almost like healing an object and bringing it into the ultraviolet frequency of healing and allowing it to come back into the physical frequency, and therefore it would have been healed. That is a philosophy that many people use, and therefore you can do the same thing with an object if you have the intent of doing it. And yes, do you understand?
Yes, thank you. The next question is from Susan Yu. Is Trump surrounded by the right people for the best results of our highest timeline? Is he on track or being distracted? And is his security people, are his security people well vetted and is he well protected? Thank you.
He is much more protected than he was months ago. Part of the reason is because he has assumed the office of presidency and the protection is much stronger. The other reason is because of the assassination attempts on him, he has become much more aware of the importance of his security and has become more diligent on who he has surrounding him for that purpose. For the most part, most of his picks, let me restate that, the majority of his picks, with the exception of maybe one or two or three of them, are the right people that he needs to surround himself with. He will find as he proceeds that the few that will disappoint him to some extent, not so much betray him or work against him, but he will find that some of them aren't working up to the highest potential that he is looking for, because he has set a mission of very high goals, and therefore is seeking very high caliber people in order to achieve that. He will find that a few of his people don't quite rise to the standards that he is seeking, and therefore will make some changes along the ways. But it is not so much that they are sabotaging him, but they're just not performing to what he is expecting. But yes, he is on the right track, and he has surrounded himself with much better people than he did on the first time. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. Uh, does the medium need a break? We have, I believe, just one more question.
No, go ahead.
The next question is from Rhonda. If each person has come to the earth for a purpose, is there a way to find out one's purpose? Thank you.
That is a very tricky question. For part of what you are here on the earth plane for is to take a test. In other words, you set out certain goals in the world of spirit before you incarnated into this plane. For this particular lifetime, you set out several goals and several tests, and then you come into the earth plane forgetting what they are to see if you'll accomplish them. If you were to have a list of what those things are, it's kind of would be called a cheat sheet, then that kind of defeats the purpose of you coming back. So it is difficult for us to say yes, do this and that, because in some ways that would be sabotaging what you are looking for. That being said, if one totally desires to try to discover that, one could set themselves, set the intent of learning, of wanting to learn what their goals were, and going into the energy, or going into is the wrong terminology. We still have problems with all saying it the exact way. But to shift your focus and claiming and identifying as the I am energy and asking for that to be revealed. But you are asking to cheat in the system. And do you really want to do that? Now remember, you do have free will, so we're not saying that you can't, but is that really in your best interest? Only you can decide that. So that is how we answer that question.
Thank you. That is the end of our questions. We really appreciate you, Carl, and friends. Thank you for being here.
We certainly look forward to our coming together and being able to assist you in your inquiries each time. It is something that we look forward to, just as I am sure that you look forward to it as well. The coming together, the bridging of the two worlds, and allowing information to flow between the two worlds to assist you and guide you is, as we said before, your birthright. And therefore, it is our privilege to be able to be here to assist you and to answer your questions. We would say this during normal times, but it is even more of an honor during the end times because of all the turmoil and all the questioning and all the uncertainty that you are facing. We are privileged to be the ones to remind you of the way to proceed and how to proceed in order to bring as much light into the world as possible. Because as we have stated so many times today, it is so important for you to bring light into the world at this point in time in order to help people and attract people from their darkness, from their lack of knowledge. I do not want to use the word ignorant, but from their lack of knowledge to bring them into a more spiritually knowledgeable state. And so it is, again, it is something that has to be done through free will, through their choice in order to seek that out. And we are thrilled to be able to help you increase your light so that you can become the teachers that are needed in the days to come. That being said, it is time for us to withdraw, and we leave you with our blessings and our immense love for you. And we so enjoy being with you each time. So be it.